Hello everyone and welcome to the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve in Canada, in Montreal in Canada, and a very, very wet day for a round of GPVWC Formula Sprint 1. This is round 7 of the 2020 championship. There you see the circuit, but you can't really see it in reality because it is covered by a very thick layer of moisture. And they're currently attempting to qualify in this weather. And I mean, I'd say sooner them than me, but actually this kind of weather is very fun to drive single seaters in. You don't have much grip out there, but they're making it work, and we've had plenty of qualifying laps coming in. So far, it's Owen McGorgy on provisional pole position, followed by Jake Dennehan. Not much in it, less than 1/10 of a second between the two of them, but then they actually have quite a big gap to the rest of the field. So two cars mastering the conditions so far. 2.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session, and apologies that we started the broadcast so late. I'm afraid that I had a little bit of an issue getting in. I attempted to plug in my second monitor and it crashed my entire PC, and then it was really slow to boot up again. So yeah, it didn't exactly work how I wanted it to. Now, I'm being told by RaceView, as Philip Koenig goes up into 7th place, just misses out on displacing Amari Watson. I'm being told by RaceView that a couple of drivers are going on to intermediate tyres. Moritz Kropp and Menno Klont are the first two out there on inters. I'm looking at the track conditions. That's ridiculous, but if they don't feel that they can improve on on their times on the full wets. I suppose they have nothing to lose, and they'll be hoping the track dries out a bit as they're out there on the formation lap. But whatever the case, here we are on board with Ruben Machete, fastest of anyone in the first sector so far, or at least faster than our provisional pole time set by Owen McGorgy. Machete coming through to the end of the lap, just 2 corners to go, and these are the 2 corners that I really would not want to do in the wet because they are difficult at the best of times. This fast flick of a chicane with huge nasty curbs and a wall just waiting there to grab you. That's the Quebec wall, also known as the Wall of Champions. Machete across the line, P4, so it is an improvement for Machete. Goes up onto the second row of the grid. Jake Dennehan, though, improving in both the first and second sector, and Dennehan is already up there, almost at the very top of the times, with his special Montreal livery for TCS off. Heiler goes to 4th, but watch Dennehan, and it's pole, is it? He crosses the line, and it's down. He lost time in the 3rd sector, so Dennehan does not improve, and unless he can go again for another run straight away, that may be his last chance. Tom Stevens now, a bit of a slide, but he might just get away with it. Stevens in the nocturne. Few corners to go on this lap. Around the hairpin. Lapangla. And putting down the acceleration. Now, normally there'd be a DRS zone here, but in the wet, of course, DRS not active. Just a few seconds to go on the timer. He's going to meet the checkered flag as he crosses the line. Tom Stevens into the final chicane. It's a fast one. Is the chicane fast, though? That looked decent. Towards the line. And where does it put him? Tom Stevens goes second, misses out by 0.005 of a second. What a fantastically close finish to the qualifying session. As my entire PC begins to lag again, so I can't exactly see what's going on. Oh, there we go, we're back. Owen McGorgy, fastest of anyone in the first sector, though, may still improve, but doesn't really need to now because his main rivals have crossed the line for the last time. There's going to be no improvement for Stevens. Dennehan is not improving. Frank Hamming there improves in the 3rd sector, but does not improve on his lap. Wait, what happened there? Dennehan did set another lap. But we just saw him crossing the line and going second. That doesn't make sense. Oh, that was Tom Stevens. Sorry, Dennehan does cross the line and go first. My apologies. I got really confused there because I'm trying to launch up my game at the same time. So this is an important lap for McGorgy. He's got to find 4/10. That's not happening, is it? Jake Dennehan, I think we can safely say, is on pole, and McGorgy gets all sorts of out of shape out of the final corner and spins. And that was a deliberate spin there. He clearly knew that he was not going to improve. So McGorgy will start second at best, but there's no one else coming across the line. So Dennehan there, who snatched 3 or 4/10 of a second at the last minute and came out of absolutely nowhere, has taken pole position in the wet ahead of Owen McGorgy. Tom Stevens, actually I'll wait until we see the finished order before going through it like that. But what a session there for Jake Dennehan to take pole position by a massive, massive margin. And they often say that in wet conditions, it's the last person across the line that sets pole, but that's usually when the track's drying. Now, Dennehan on pole, followed by McGorgy, Stevens, Machete, Heiler, Hamming, Watson, Koenig, Ragosa, and Gutt. The car you see crossing the line there shouldn't be. That's Damien Kardash. He is a long way off the pace, so this isn't a representative lap time. But anyway, second page if we can. And that's going to start with Moritz Krupp there, all the way down in 11th position. Not great by his standards. Severus Mercedes, P12, then Mike Quint, Menu Klunt, Craig Patterson, Ada Erkan, Adrian Faber, Damien Kardash, Silver Joffert, and Justin van der Smissen. Those are the top 20. Then Gerrit de Vries, Alessandro Valente, Mike Bell, and Sandro Van Sant make up the rest of the grid. But it was a shame to see only 24 cars here today. There are 15 teams, so that is a theoretical grid size of 30. So we're missing 6 cars today, and we never like to see that in GPVWC, although it does say a lot about this championship, that even though we have quite a few cars missing, we still have 24 cars here. That's as much as the largest grid size I've ever seen in Formula One. I know that there have been larger ones, but during my lifetime at least. A fantastically sized grid always with GPVWC, just not quite as fantastically sized as we normally get. Right, now since we were late, or so late till qualifying, I won't skip warm-up, so we're not going to go to a break this time. And that should give me an opportunity to talk you through the championship standings and other things of that variety. There you see the circuit once again, 4.361 kilometers. This circuit held its first Grand Prix in 1978, back then known as the Ile Notre Dame. And then, of course, it was renamed as the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve after the famous Gilles Villeneuve lost his And I am back. I have absolutely no idea what happened there. My internet just decided to not internet anymore. I am not having a good day for things like this. But yes, I am back. I have no idea what the last thing you heard was, but I was talking about how this circuit was first known as the Ile Notre Dame, and now it's known as the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It's located on an island, actually, in the St. Lawrence River, and the island is the shape of the circuit. There's not really much room past the barriers to the river itself. It's quite an unusual location. It's almost like the opposite of the Albert Park circuit, where with the Albert Park circuit you run around the outside of a lake, and then you have of course the shape of the circuit reflected kind of in the lake. In this, the water goes around you, so it's kind of the complete opposite, although there is also a little lake on the inside. But anyway, Ruben Machete there, kicking up the spray. I don't think I'm going to attempt to plug in my second monitor today, because I think that if I did, it would just crash everything again. So I'm going to commentate solely using the broadcast, the Discord stream that Szymon Frelik has put up for me. And no, actually, I'm going to give it one more go. Okay, so if I disconnect suddenly, you know what's happened. I'm just going to do that quickly. Okay, I think we're okay. That means that I now have, I now have the server on one screen and the practice on the other. That's good. Okay. Whew, phew. Okay, I was nervous about that one. Machete there completing a lap. Of course, this isn't an official timed session. Nothing comes of this, no matter whether you're the quickest or the slowest or anywhere in between. In terms of the championship, Magori comes into this round leading it by 12 points ahead of Tom Stevens, and then Moritz Kropp a little way back, but it's very much been HGP versus Nova, not HGP, Nova versus Nocturne versus TCS off. Okay, hi everyone. Sorry, I know I've missed the start of the race. I will absolutely not be trying that again. But I am back. I'm your commentator, Caitlin Penny, and I'm here to talk you through what remains of the FS1 race. Okie dokie. So Jake Dennehan leads us down into La Pangla for the first time, followed by Owen McGorky and Ruben Machete. Tom Stevens and Frank Hamming following them through. Mike Bell appears to have started from the pit lane, but does appear to be on track right now. So we do have all 24 of the cars who were scheduled to start out there right now. Mercedes dropping a couple of places. He seems to be at the back. I think something may have happened there. Manu Clont there down in P14. Sparks flying out the back. That's one of the products of the most recent updates to RFX 2. You can see all of the sparks so much better now. Across the start-finish line they go for the end of the first lap. Machete there already up to third past Tom Stevens. That's the top change that's happened. Further back, a few more drivers moving up and down places. Erkan's moved down 5, so I presume he had a little, maybe got edged out a little in the first few corners. But anyway, the race continues. There is Ruben Machete in third place. The two TSU Softs, first and third. Machete is the kind of driver you want here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. He won both of the FS2 races the other day, and in fantastic style as well. His second race win came from 15th on the grid, and he made a move for the lead into the final chicane of the final lap of the race. It was a fantastic drive, and he is here with a rightfully deserved FS1 drive today. Tom Stevens all over his tail though. Tom Stevens is not a driver you want to see directly behind you. Look at the water accumulating on the halo on the top of the car there. Probably should be streaking off it with the speed that Tom Stevens is going down this straight, up to 270 kilometers per hour, 273 by the time he reaches the braking zone. And then keeping it out, just about out of the Quebec wall. It's a tough one further back. That's Damien Kardashev moving up ahead of Silver Joffert and into P15. And there's the spray, the mountains of spray flying off the back of the cars as they shoot down towards turn 1. Now, you don't have to look at the gaps between the cars in terms of DRS zones today. There is no DRS, and there probably won't be for the duration of this race. It is way too wet for that. But even so, Dennehan and McGorky were separated by about a second coming off the start-finish line that time around. So if you remember that gap, we'll be able to tell whether the driver in front is pulling away or not. Machete and Stevens and the rest of the pack actually keeping up with the cars in front. It's a 24-car chain all the way to the back of the field, and a very clean start considering the conditions. So I am very happy and very proud of all of the drivers for making it through that. Manu Clont running in 14th position here as we head down into the hairpin once again. Sets up for the long run down to the start-finish straight. You do still get slipstream in these conditions, but you also get a face full of water and zero visibility. So a lot of the time, and Philip Koenig has passed Amari Watson, so that is a change for 7th place down the straight. There's a few changes further back as well, and there they are once again. That looked like Stevens going for a move on Machete down the inside for 3rd place over the curb. He's on the outside now. Needs to make sure he leaves room for Ruben Machete, and does so. They're going to be neck and neck into the chicane as well. Downhill, neither wanting to give way. That's so brave. I had Fernando Alonso Jensen Button flashbacks there, but Tom Stevens does make the move. Great driving from Tom Stevens. A really good overtake. It was hard fought, but he's made it stick. So many different chicanes on this track there. I don't even know whether to count the turns 1 and 2 as a chicane, but even without that, you've got 3 artificial left-rights or right-lefts. They're all right-lefts, actually, come to think of it. It's one of the defining features of this track. It's basically a bunch of chicanes and this hairpin separated by little straights, or quite a long straight in the case of what we're about to see. Can Machete gain advantage of it and come back at Tom Stevens? We're on board with him. You're about to see the visibility get a lot worse, but you're also about to see him gain a lot of pace. He's fast. He's very fast. Goes to the outside. He's going to run out of track, though, and has to give way for the chicane. That's where he made his move for the lead in Race 2 in Formula Sprint 2 the other day. Now onto the start-finish straight once again. Down towards turns 1 and 2, to the outside. If he can force his way to the inside, which he does, he'll have the ideal line. They very nearly lock wheels, and a big slide for Ruben Machete. And he gets back at Tom Stevens in exactly the place that Stevens got ahead of him a lap ago. Ruben Machete back onto the podium. A fantastic race between two fantastic drivers. And again, they go down through the gears into one of the many chicanes on this circuit. That the only left-right chicane of all. Under the bridge. You can use that bridge as a braking marker because it doesn't move. If you pick a point on the bridge and say, I'm going to brake there, and it works for you, then you can do that pretty much every lap, providing the track doesn't get any wetter or significantly drier. Frank Hamming there, not getting the best run out of the chicane. Tell you what though, Stevens looks like he did. Stevens is going to accelerate up to about 280 kilometers per hour by the time he gets to the braking zone here. Maybe a bit under that actually, so Machete may have a slight advantage in straight line speed. Here's Vincent Gutt now, just ahead of Craig Patterson and just behind Alexander Ragosa. This is the battle for 9th place. Ragosa holding steady. Gutt with the overspeed down into turn 1. You have to be so careful not to run into the back of your opponent there, because different drivers brake at different points during wet conditions like this. It's a slightly more unpredictable time for everyone. These cars do still have a lot of grip because the downforce doesn't go away. You still have just as much downforce when you're at a high speed, but the trouble is you're going significantly slower than you are in the dry anyway, and there's so much less mechanical grip because your tires just slide over the surface of the track. So braking distances are extended, acceleration zones are extended, and you have to spend so much more time in the corners making sure that you're not making an error. Down into the hairpin. The long straight that follows the hairpin is still a fantastic overtaking opportunity, even though there's no DRS here. It's going to be the place where the majority of the overtakes are set up, at least. I don't know about completed, because it's very difficult to actually pass down into that chicane there. There's no real heavy braking zone. Vincent Gutt out of the chicane, still not quite able to benefit from Ragosa ahead of him. And still, I don't want to curse anything, but everyone still has their wings about them and all of that. Haven't seen anyone pointing backwards yet. It's been a fantastic display of driving, actually, so far. I'm very impressed. Down into another of the chicanes. Across the what would be the second DRS zone. There's another little DRS zone there down towards the bridge. 3 in total on this track, although confusingly the second and third DRS zones are both activated by the same activation point, which is here on the exit of this hairpin. Wide goes Ragosa. The trouble is he's going to have a better run down this straight than Vincent Gutt, because Gutt had to check up there. Talking of checking up, Jake Dennehan is checking out. 3 seconds now, his advantage for the lead. That's almost the biggest gap anywhere in the field. Apart from Ragosa, and Heiler's now got past Koenig, and wide goes Ragosa. Ragosa running across the escape road, and he's going to rejoin behind the bunch of cars that he was attempting to hold off. So Gutt goes through to 9th, Patterson through to 10th. But yes, Heiler was able to get past Koenig that time round, and that's for 6th and 7th. Here's a replay, presumably of Alexander Ragosa, and the replay is not picked up from the right point, so give it a few moments and we'll see where we can pick it up from. But yeah, not exactly the what Alexander Ragosa needed to be doing there. Very easy mistake to make, just got out of the dry groove there. There is a bit of a dry groove forming on the track. And he ran straight across the escape road. Here is Tom Stevens in the Nocturne, running 4th place, his teammate running 11th, and those two big rivals in the championship, so Stevens will be pretty happy with that. But Owen McGorgy still a couple of cars ahead of him, and McGorgy is who he really wants to beat today, because they are not teammates. Owen McGorgy racing for... My mind is blanked. Nova, there we go. Here's Adrian Faber battling with Menu Clont, Damien Kardash, and a bunch of other cars. Down the straight they go, very nearly 3 wide. Very nearly 3 wide. Kardash gets through the corner ahead of them. Wow, Kardash just gained... Did he just gain a place there? I think he did. Oh, he gained both places, so Kardash with a double overtake in the wet down into the chicane. Let's watch that again. So yeah, you see, he's coming into it in 15th position. Gets the overspeed very, very quick. Now here I'd be tempted to back off because he... Wow. And Faber had to back off because he saw him coming. Fantastic stuff there from Damien Kardash. Move of the race so far. I know that Tom Stevens' move earlier on was very impressive, but that was quite something there from Damien Kardash. As Van der Smissen and Erkin are apparently doing battle for 19th. Menu Clont taking a look at the rear wing of Adrian Faber's car. A little twitch from Silver Joffert, who's following them through. But they are okay for the time being. Machete, meanwhile, has caught up to Owen McGorgy. So not only is Denahan checking out, but Machete is reeling in the Nova driver. Less than 9/10 of a second between the two of them. Menu Clont with a drive on Adrian Faber. Not quite the drive that Kardash had. He's going to have to really work for this one. And do they both make the corner? They do. And wasn't able to set it up on the exit there. Little twitch. Usually you don't make the move down into the chicane there. You have to set it up for a move down into turn 1. That's the place where the real braking zone is, and so the real overtaking opportunity. Or it's crop here. P11. The driver P3 in the championship. Little twitch. On the back of Craig Patson, who's moved up a few places since the start of this race. Mike Quint appears to be the biggest gainer so far, up 5 places. And Ada Erkan, the biggest loser, down 6. Under the bridge go Patson and Krop. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen between Machete and McGorgy in the next few laps as well, because that gap was definitely coming down. And McGorgy is just not able to keep up with Denahan. Denahan is flying in these conditions. Of course, we don't know whether he'd be flying if it was the dry or not, but Denahan is definitely capable of it. Took 2 wins back-to-back at Azerbaijan and Monaco. Race 2 at Azerbaijan, race 1 at Monaco. Had a bad race 2 at Monaco, but here he's right back on the horse. Lost a second in that last sector though. Maybe a little mistake, easy to do in this in these conditions. Little wide there. That's Patson with Krop attempting to set him up. That back in 2011 and ended up running over his own front wing a couple of corners later. Or 1 corner later. But Krop more sensible about it. Lap 11 of this race now. We're almost a third of the way in. Denahan still leading from McGorgy Machete and Stevens, those two relatively close, with Machete catching still Owen McGorgy. Frank Hamming going with them, then Philip Koenig, Mathieu Heiler, Amari Watson, Vincent Gutt, and Craig Patterson. And talking of Patterson, we are still watching the fight for P10 between Patterson and Kropp, who takes a look, an ambitious look. That's the line you've got to be taking in the wet, actually, the one that we just saw from Patterson, because it holds up the driver behind you, and then it gives you the run you need to stay ahead down the straight. Like I said, very, very good stuff. A lot of people in the YouTube chat cheering on Ruben Machete here. And Machete is still hunting Owen McGorgy. Kropp taking a look. Bit too far back there. Patterson did seem to be a little shaken. So, lap 12 now. Ruben Machete, clearly one of the most popular drivers on the grid, and judging by his driving style, I don't really blame his fans. I was absolutely blown away by his driving in Formula Sprint 2 the other day. Had a good view of it after I'd been taken out in race 2. I was able to watch the finish from the sidelines. I'll leave that up to you to decide whether that's a good thing or not. Ruben Machete now. Half a second to Owen McGorgy, so he is still getting closer. Oh, and he's missed it. He's missed the chicane. Has to take a different chicane to try to get back onto the road. And he's going to lose about a second in that. Might lose a place to Tom Stevens here. Not quite. So it was clear that Machete was pushing, but it appears he was pushing too much there. And why that happened is very simple, actually. It's because he was moving faster down into the corner than he was expecting. Kropp now to the inside of Patterson. Leaves his braking later. And Patterson comes straight back at him. Still makes the corner. And they avoid rubbing wheels for the time being. Kropp's going to have his nose ahead. And Patterson's still there. They do touch now. And Kropp goes through. So Kropp P10. Sandro Van Sand is the first driver to call into the pits. He is P24 now. And it appears to make Bell's drop back a bit. I did see a brief yellow, so I think Bell might have had a spin. Damien Kardash now on the back of Craig Patterson. So he's got past Ragosa. Those two are teammates. And now lining up this scrap that we just saw. Yeah, it's an easy mistake to make to miss the final chicane, because when you're in the slipstream of a driver, you're coming at that corner faster than you've come at it before, and as a result, your braking point has to be slightly different, and you have less braking power anyway because the air is taken off your wings from the car in front. Across the start-finish line, Frank Hamming. Sandwiched between Tom Stevens and Philip Koenig. These two have been accordioned together due to Machete's mistake a couple of laps ago. And head to toe, nose to tail, as they are. You can see that the rain is still coming down. I'm pretty sure it stopped earlier on for a bit, so maybe it stopped and then restarted and Hamming had a twitch. But crucially for these drivers and the tyres, the rain never completely stopped and never stopped for long enough for the circuit to become dry, because then the wet tyres can overheat, and that was a big bit of curb there from Frank Hamming. Every driver, well, in the dry they'd need to make a pit stop in this race. In the wet I presume they also do, but it's not essential. Not essential. It's I presume they're just going to pit when their tyres start to wear a bit, if they do at all. Frank Hamming under attack now. That's Philip Koenig, who bails out of it. And on the exit of the chicane, continues on. There is Damien Kardash now, and he has got past Patterson, and he has made the corner. So Kardash getting closer and closer to that top 10. And the top 10 is crucial in FS1 because we have a partially reversed grid for race 2, and the number of cars that are reversed is picked out of a hat effectively before the start of race 2, but the lowest number it could be is P10. So if you're in P11, you stand no chance at all of a reverse grid pole. If you're in P10, you have about a 1 in 5 chance of a reverse grid pole. That's wide from Kardash. Might leave himself vulnerable to Patton on the exit of the corner. Straight's too short for Patterson, I fear. You can stick your nose to the outside of the driver in front, down into that chicane, but that's risky if they don't see you. Oh, I appreciate the rainbow there on the halo of Craig Patterson's car for the month of June. That's very nice. Exits the hairpin. Onto the back straight. 20 laps remaining, as you see there. Not quite halfway through the race just yet, but we're getting there. And Patterson is getting a move on. I'd be interested to hear from one of the drivers actually whether they expect there to be pit stops or scheduled pit stops in this race too. Of course, Sandro Van Sand's in the pits, but he's been there for over 4 minutes, so that's due to damage repairs. It's a bug, apparently. He is on the track, so the pit timer has not updated. I was going to say that would be some quite extreme damage repairs there, but anyway. Down through the chicane goes Craig Patterson, and we've rebooted the... Well, we have rebooted the timing screen, but it still says that Sandro Van Sand is in the pits. Oh well, not a big issue. We can all just keep in mind that he is actually out there on track somewhere, probably a long way down because he did come into the pits. But there he is, proof that he's still out there and running, good for him, and he's on intermediate tyres, that's brave. Maybe deciding that he was so far back already that he might as well take a risk. Whoa, big slide. Back to Patterson. We're now just under halfway through the race. We'll be halfway through this lap. And Dennehan's still leading from McGorgy and Machete. The gap, Machete not quite able to bring it down yet after his little off. He's brought it down a little, but he's not in any immediate danger of attacking Owen McGorgy. Give him time though, still plenty of time left in this race. He may still have another swipe. Frank Hamming is the immediate threat right now, with he and Philip Koenig still on the back of Tom Stevens. Right there, in fact, look at that, less than half a second separating both Stevens and Hamming, and then Hamming and Koenig as well. Hamming getting out of shape through the chicane. And Koenig locking up a little. Survives it, continues on. Down the back straight they go. Frank Hamming for HGP Motorsport. HGP, the car that I always get muddled up with the Nocturne team, because Owen McGorgy used to race for HGP, I believe. And so my brain is kind of stuck in 2020 mood or whenever it was. Yeah, so Owen now does drive for Nova, but he did drive a HGP. Brief yellow flag zone. I believe all of our front runners are okay. Silver Joffert has had a little slide out of the final corner, and it's going to lose a couple of places in that one. Stefan Mercedes also into the pits now, potentially going for inters, but still looking very wet out there. And here we're about to see a replay, I presume, of what happened to Silver Joffet. And once again, the replay is picked up at the wrong point, but we will get that to you as soon as we can. You can just hear my broadcast director slamming his keyboard in the background there, trying to get it all working. Don't worry, Szymon, you're doing a good job. Thank you very much. Silver there did a Ruben Machete. Oh, and very nearly slid into the path of oncoming traffic as he rejoined the circuit. Could have been a bit of a dangerous one. And Machete has just gained about 5 or 6 tenths of a second on McCorkey there. I was watching the gap, it was 1.2 seconds. And Hamming and Koenig's in the pits. So there has been a change, and that's because Philip Koenig makes his pit stop. Now keep in mind, we are expecting everyone to make a pit stop, but judging by the rules, they don't necessarily have to. Vincent Gutt into the pits as well. So there is a chance that if they can, someone is going to try to stick it out for this entire duration and make it to the finish. In the dry, you would have to make a pit stop, but it's not mandatory in the wet because the 2 compound rule no longer applies. Ragosa stops in his box. Also in ahead there, that was Vincent Gutt just exiting. That puts Damien Kardash briefly into the top 10. Koenig's still in the top 10 after his pit stop. That's when you know he's done a good first stint. I thought the pack was a bit more bunched up than that, but this is quite a short pit lane in the grand scheme of things. You skip out 2 separate chicanes by coming into the pit lane here, so you don't really lose that much time compared to at other circuits. And Ragosa has gone to intermediate tyres, so Ragosa taking the risk. But the rain does not appear to be coming down. It's drier than it was earlier on. Maybe still a sprinkling out there. Here is Machete. He's caught right back up to the tail of our championship leader. Into turn 1. A few more sparks coming out the back of the car, especially when he drops it over the curb like that, as the under tray of the car whacks against the ground. Into turns 3 and 4. Downhill, these corners always very slippery in the wet due to the running water. Now we have an uphill chicane. Also very slippery when wet, because it's slippery when dry as well. That chicane that they've just been through, there's only really one line through there. And if you get out of the groove, your line is absolutely ruined. There's Alessandro Valente. Stays on full wets, so it's not just people pitting for intermediate tyres. Did Koenig go full wets as well? I believe he did. Valente puts the power down. The pit exit here is quite a tricky one actually. The pit entry is pretty dangerous because you've got a chicane, and you actually don't have to brake at the same point in the chicane as cars who are taking it normally, but then you have a different chicane to negotiate on the entry to the pits, and the pit lane speed limit line comes out of nowhere. Machete now lining up Owen McGorgy, and the body language of his car suggested that he might be about to go for his first real attacking maneuver on McGorky's car, but he wasn't quite close enough that time around. Now he's let McGorky know that he's there, and he's let him know what his intentions are. And that scrap will rage on, whether they pit or don't. And the rain is coming down again. I saw even more of it coming out of that final chicane there. And the dry line is slowly vanishing. This is about the 3rd separate rain shower we've had in this race. It makes me think that we are absolutely going wet to the end. How the second race will look, I don't know, but changeable conditions again, I presume. Sandro Van Sand, meanwhile, is now out of the race, so obviously he has called it a day, as Valente nearly attempt to move on Ragosa. These two not fighting for points just yet, but might be, considering how many people are still yet to stop. Does take a look up the inside now. Oh, that's not gone well. Valente there bashes into the side of Ragosa's car. Ragosa with a big twitch. Stays ahead of Valente's car. Did a great job to hold it over the grass. They're going to come together again. These two are not going to be the best of friends after this lap. And did Ragosa make it through the corner? He did, but he's been passed now by Stefan Mizadis. Here is Machete, once again on the tail of Owen McGorgy, just as he was a lap ago. And just as close as he was a lap ago as well. I've been pinged in the YouTube chat as Silver Joffert there fights with Mike Quinn to say that if Ruben Machete is not driver of the day, then Dakar 2 will riot. Okay, good to know. Well, I'll keep my eye on Ruben Machete, see if he is going to be deserving of that by the end of this race. And it might come down to whether he makes this move or not on Owen McGorgy. Bit of a twitch. Can he set himself up well through this hairpin? Slightly wider entry. Tighter exit, McGorgy backs him up. It's the oldest trick in the book. Ooh, very slippery. The car wheel spinning in third gear. And he's getting closer, and Machete is going to go for a move to the inside. He likes this point on the track, and he makes it, and he does make the corner. So Ruben Machete goes through, and it is a TCS off 1-2, at least temporarily, because McGorgy is going to come back at him now, to the outside. Machete knows he's there, leaves his brake in later. Has he left it too late? No, he hasn't. McGorgy slightly cuts the turn. And Machete stays second. So Denahan leads, Machete second, and McGorgy is third. Tom Stevens not that far behind these top three either, and Frank Hamming following him. Mike Quint now has come up from 23rd on the grid, so doing a good job to be in P15. If he scores points, he'll be very proud of it. Hasn't been into the pits though. I'll be fascinated to see who the top driver is who has made a pit stop soon, because that could end up being very important as the leader's tyres go off towards the end of the race, providing they're not still going to come into the pits. This is the kind of race, and the top driver who has been in is Philip Koenig, no surprise there. This is the kind of race where you can't really call a net order, because right now you could say, oh yes, well, Denahan was leading by so much that surely he's still in the lead with Machete second, but actually it really depends on whether Koenig's been gaining or losing time out there on those fresh tyres, and how long Denahan and Machete decide to stay out, whether they pit at all, of course. Down the back straight they go. I think that what we are seeing in this race is that race 2 is going to be done with no pit stops whatsoever. No scheduled pit stops anyway. Race 2 is significantly shorter than race 1, and if they can go this long on a set of wets, then they can absolutely do the whole of race 2. It's going to be a straight sprint there. Unless there's changeable conditions that would require a change from wets to inters or inters to dries, or vice versa. Bit of a slide from Silver Joffert there. Silver Joffert standing in for Jason Muscat today in that multi-force car. Not entirely sure why Muscat is absent, but Silver Joffert doing a decent job in that car, following Menno Klont through. And I always say that the multi-force cars are quite close together. They're always quite evenly matched when Klont and Muscat. It seems to still be the case with Joffert as well, so I presume that also means that Joffert is quite evenly matched with Jason. Ten laps to go in this race now, 11 including this one. Jake Dennehan leads this race by 8 seconds over Ruben Machete, his teammate. Owen McGorgy is third. And then it's Tom Stevens, Frank Hamming, Maciej Heiler, Amari Watson, Moritz Kropp, Philip Koenig, and Damien Kardash. As wide and over the escape road goes Menno Klont, rejoins on the other side of the cones and loses a place to Silver Joffert. So the multiple cars swap, although in a slightly unconventional way. Now, unfortunately, because I'm not in the server today, due to the issues I was having earlier on, I can't keep you updated on what these yellow flags are for and how individual drivers are doing near the back of the field, but our broadcast director is doing a good job of showing you everything that he can. Here's Silver Joffert. Ooh, that's not the line you want to be taking. All sorts of out of shape now. And that was all started by Adrian Faber getting out of shape. So what are the things we could see changing in the last 10 laps of this race? Well, you've got to keep your eye on Philip Koenig. Or half an eye on Philip Koenig, because you've got to still watch these other fights. But Philip Koenig, being the top driver to have pitted so far, is in a strange situation where he might have a strategic advantage over the others, but we just don't know yet. He has got rather boxed up behind Moritz Kropp, and Moritz is not going to be an easy car to pass. But we'll have to see whether Dennehan, Machete, McGorgy, etc. waste their tyres, or whether they can keep going to the end. At this point, they will probably keep going to the end, even if they do ruin their tyres, because they'd lose even more time if they pitted now. So I'm expecting them all to stay out right to the end of the race, no matter what happens, but they might lose enough time to really give Koenig a chance of a good result. A win is a bit of a stretch right now, being 27 seconds back. But who's to say he can't get a top 5 or something along at those lines? It still might be a mistake, though, to have pitted, because he was running right up there before all of this happened. Other changes that could happen. Oh, Joffert runs into the back now of Adrian Faber. Spins his car around and very nearly runs straight into another car as he rejoins the circuit. Vincent Gutt was very lucky there to have avoided that. Here's a replay. He's just going to misjudge the rear of Adrian's car and misjudge the braking speed of Adrian's car down into this chicane. And just had a little panic, actually. I think he might have been fine if he just kept it straight, but locked his tyres up and slid straight into the rear of Faber, who had a good save. Faber still running in 12th position, but Joffert is now down into 17th. Sorry, just having a quick drink of water. Okay. Back to watching Tom Stevens now, sandwiched between McGorgy and Hamming in the fight for the podium. Tom Stevens and Owen McGorgy. 1-2 in the championship, don't forget, this is an important scrap here. They're separated by 12 points, which may sound like a lot, but it really isn't. 12 points is 12 points is way less than a race win. And we have so many races still to go in this championship. Another quick yellow flag out there somewhere. May have been Alessandro Valente, who is DNF'd in this race now. So I'm afraid to say we have had our second DNF. Still very impressive that we've only had 2 with a race this long and this damp. But anyway, 21 cars on the lead lap. Mike Bell has been lapped now. And we're about to see a replay of what happened to Alessandro Valente. And he's going to lose it, is he? Yeah. That's a very common place to have an accident. And I presume that he's had so much damage, he's just decided to call it a day at that point. very commonplace to have an accident. It is hard. That wall is hard and unforgiving. So, 7 laps to go, 8 including the one we're on. Thought I saw a change there, maybe just outside of the top 10. And we may be about to see another change. Can Stevens line up Ormagorgi on the exit of the chicane? Probably not this time. About 6/10 between him and McGorgy. About 6/10 between him and Hamming as well. Here's Philip Koenig having a go at Moritz Kropp. Now remember, Koenig is on significantly fresher tyres here than Moritz Kropp. Moritz will be going defensive, but Philip Koenig has the advantage. Well, he has an advantage. Moritz Kropp has the advantage of being ahead and being in the controlling position in this fight. Through the chicane, where we saw Koenig's teammate Valente hit the wall. So evenly matched here at this point. Koenig definitely has the faster car at this stage. But he's been sitting behind Kropp for a long time and hasn't quite been able to make a move. And the longer he does this, the less of a tyre advantage he's going to have, because he will probably be using his tyres up at a faster rate than Moritz Kropp right now. Actually, not necessarily. Sometimes there can be a bit of a snowball effect in terms of tyres, because the less tyre life you have, the more your car slides, and therefore the more tyre life you lose. But by the time you reach that snowball stage, that's normally when you've hit the cliff. Here he goes again. Philip Koenig to the inside. Kropp's got to see him coming here, surely. Oh, great defensive driving from Moritz Kropp. To not just keep the move, but not even touch Philip Koenig through a very tight section of course. Really good driving from both of them, actually, because if Philip Koenig had been a little less willing, then they would definitely have had a crash there. Here we're going to see a replay of that move from on board Philip Koenig, so we're going to see how close they got and whether they did actually touch or not. Now Koenig has the inside line here, and they just about do, so they do touch slightly. No harm, no foul though. They both felt that they had a right to that corner though. Koenig because he was on the inside, and Kropp because he was slightly ahead because he had his nose in front. So both of them would have been thinking, I'm just going to wait until the other guy backs off, and then neither of them did as a result. The slightly more embarrassing, slightly more funny version of that event is when both cars back off at the same time. That can happen as well. It's less common due to drivers not liking to give up positions, but it can happen. Here we go again. Third time lucky for Philip Koenig. Oh, they bang wheels on the straight. That's early to be battling like that. And he goes through, and a big slide for Kropp. So Philip Koenig goes through and immediately builds an advantage. Good move from Philip Koenig, despite the argy-bargy on the straight. Mike Quint's about to make another move. And does go through. And you guys are going to find this funny. R52 has suddenly decided it wants to boot up for me, despite the fact I selected that it should boot up about 31 laps ago. So I think that just shows you how bad my computer's being today. I'm going to have to give it a stern telling off later. Lap 31 out of 35 now. We are getting so close to the end of the race. It's Jake Dennehan's race to lose. He's just got to make sure he brings it home. The same can be said for the entire TCS Off Racing team, because Machete has quite a gap to McGorky behind him now at this point. And really, the fight is between McGorgy, Stevens, and Hamming. That's one of the fights anyway, the top battle in this race. And then, of course, we have a few more scraps going on further back down the order. Mike Quint up 11 places in this race after starting 23rd on the grid. One of the drivers who's not just survived out there without changing tyres, but he has positively thrived in these conditions. Doing a wonderful job. Down the straight he goes. To the outside, takes a look. This is Craig Patterson that he's fighting with, and that was a little clumsier than what we saw with Koenig and Kropp. That was what I expected to see with Koenig and Kropp, to be honest. And clearly, Quint does not feel that he should give that place back. He probably feels that he was forced off the road by Craig Patterson. And Craig can be quite a fiery fellow, actually, so I'm not sure how he's going to be feeling about that one. I wonder if that might be left up to the stewards to decide after this one. Potentially. Here's Frank Hamming now. And this is a move for 4th place. Goes to the outside of Tom Stevens, gets his nose well in front. Way before the braking zone, Frank Hamming goes through. Hits the curb, but he's still 4th. So Hamming 4th, Stevens is 5th. And that puts another car between Owen McGorgy and Tom Stevens now. And McGorgy will be rubbing his hands together, metaphorically of course. He's got to have them on his steering wheel right now, but anyway, very close to the wall. .33 of 35. Can Frank Hamming have a go at Owen McGorgy before this race is done? Two similarly liveried cars, especially in the rain where everything just kind of looks a bit duller. Their helmets are a very similar shade and stand out as such. Whoops. Hamming not quite able to line up McGorgy as much as he'd like to at the hairpin that time. McGorgy attempting to break the toe. The trouble of that is you get on quite a damp patch of road there, and if you're still accelerating, it can spin up the rear wheels a little, but he's okay. That was a lot of curb from Frank Hamming there. I'd be worried about my car turning into a rocket ship if I did that. And he's... ooh, that was a lot faster than McGorgy in the braking zone. Almost run into the back of Owen McGorgy there. Justin van der Smissen, I think, may have had a little incident out there. He is returning to the road. Down in P20. We are on the penultimate lap of the race now. Back to Frank Hamming. Tom Stevens dropping back, so I think he may have exhausted his tyres potentially. That's what I was talking about happening earlier on. Philip Koenig, though, is definitely not going to benefit from making that pit stop, because even though he has fresher tyres at this point, he's going to be 8th, as opposed to what could have been a podium. Would probably have been a top 5 for Philip Koenig without his pit stop. He was 5th or 6th before he came into the pits, so hasn't really lost that much, but he has lost a couple of positions. He'll just be hoping for reverse grid pole now, I think. Into the chicane, Adrian Faber. Towards the hairpin, Jake Dennehan has begun the final lap of the race. He has lost a second or two to Machete in the last couple of laps, but still leading by a comfortable margin. And look at this train of cars now, coming out the hairpin. All going different speeds, so we may see some moves here down into the chicane. Ragosa sets the fastest lap of everyone. He won't score a point for that, because he's outside of the top 15. Towards the start-finish line, these cars will all be starting their final lap as well. Patterson, Faber, Clont, Joffert, Erkan's there, Guts not that far back. But here comes Jake Dennehan. He has a straight and then a chicane to go. It's been an astonishing drive, actually. We've barely seen him. The last time I saw him was probably about lap 3 or 4 of this race. And now he's going to win it. Jake Dennehan, after back-to-back wins in Monaco and Azerbaijan, will win again here in Canada. Great stuff from Jake Dennehan. Weaves across the line and takes the flag. Ruben Machete will make it a TCS off 1-2, standing in for Darius Andre. And does finish second now. Owen McGorgy will be third. And then it's Frank Hamming and Tom Stevens, and a fantastic drive from Owen McGorgy to hold off Frank Hamming in the late stages. McGorgy was not one of the top 3 fastest cars on the road in this race, but he's finished in the top 3 nonetheless, because that's his racecraft. So it's Dennehan, Machete, McGorgy, Hamming, Stevens, Heiler, Watson, Koenig, Kropp, and Kardashev, the top 10. There is Moritz Kropp, and here comes Damien Kardashev now, who will be P10, lapping a driver as they cross the line. Now remember, there's no point going anywhere at this stage because we have another race coming up. So if you enjoyed this and you enjoy racing, stick around, because race 2 will be starting in just a few minutes time. But there are the TCS Off Racing drivers, and there is the podium with Owen McGorgy celebrating with them. They weave and wiggle. And obviously a lot of respect between those 3 drivers. And so there should be, because that was a fantastic drive from all 3 of them in that race for different reasons. Machete, because he was standing in for another driver and drove as if he'd been here for his entire life. Jake Dennehan, because he dominated proceedings. And Owen McGorgy for holding fast with cars biting at his heels. There is the order. You see the original livery for TCS Off there in first and second place. Portraits. That's the top 3 stop on the start-finish straight, or at least the TCS Off cars do, and they donut. They donut in celebration. And there are your top 10 on the screen. Damien Kardashev coming home in 10th place. Philip Koenig was the top driver to have made a pit stop there. Pretty good donuts, actually. That's not a very wide pit straight, but they're keeping it out of the wall. Mike Quint, P11, then Craig Patterson, Adrian Faber, Menu Clont, Silver Joffert. And those are all of the points finishes. Eda Erkan has just missed out. And Vincent Gutt and Stavros Mazadas, the Valet Esports cars, Jarek de Vries and Justin van der Smissen also finishing just outside of the points. Alexander Ragosa and Mike Bell were lapped, and then DNFs. Alessandro Valente and Sandro Van Sand. I have somehow confused the 2 of them as the Multiforce drivers crashed their way into the pit lane, slightly buggily. But they've made it in. And that's the end of race 1. So as I said, don't go anywhere. We are going to take a quick break now as they have a quick warm-up session before the start of race 2. And then we will have 23 more laps of racing from the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Welcome back, everyone, to the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal in Canada. We're getting ready for the start of the second race today. Race 1 was won rather convincingly by Jake Dennehan, who led lights to flag and took what is, not quite a Grand Slam, didn't take fastest lap in the race, but about as close as anyone could realistically have got to it there. We have a 23-lap race coming up now, and it is still damp, but not as wet as it was. The spray hasn't gone away, but it's not quite as bad as it was before, and you see drivers out there testing out the intermediates in this warm-up session. And apparently, the rain is supposed to stop during the course of this race, so we may have a situation where it gets drier and drier. And I don't know if it's going to get dry enough for slicks, but we'll have to see. We'll have to keep our eyes open and wait to see what the weather does. I must say I was very impressed by race 1. There was close racing, there were not that many retirements, not that many incidents, and the first lap was absolutely clean, the cleanest that I've seen around here in the wet. And last time I remember commentating a race in the wet at this circuit, it was a slightly different league, but honestly did have some of the drivers who are here today in it, and that was much more chaotic. That was a long time ago now, but yeah, much worse. So I came into today a little worried, but we're okay. We have had a pretty strong race 1, and of course with a 1-2 finish for TTS off at their home race here at Montreal. Carter McColeman is absolutely thrilled and telling everyone about it in the Discord chat, as he absolutely deserves to. Also, apparently, Jake Dennehan's biggest mistake in that race, not that he made many mistakes, was not going to the toilet beforehand, because he was desperate for the loo for the entire duration of the race, and that could not have felt very good. But won it anyway. I suppose that explains why he was so fast. Had to get to the flag as quickly as he could so he could go to the toilet. Makes sense. Anyway, the driver's now about to teleport to the grid. Who's on pole? We probably had it announced by now. Amari Watson. So the reverse grid number is 7. And that means that Amari Watson will be starting from pole position in this one. Race 1 winner Jake Dennehan will be starting from 7th on the grid. And everyone between those two positions will be reversed as well. Not literally reversed, that would be a little dangerous, but I'm pretty sure you know what I mean by now. The warm-up session has come to a close. There are the cars, and when they get going on their formation lap, we will run you through the grid order. Leave your predictions in the YouTube comments. Who do you think is going to win this race? The second race is always the one I like to get predictions from, because it is quite simply the least predictable race. There is so much that can happen, and you have faster drivers starting from further back. And in this one, we may actually have different tyre compounds as well. I think I've seen both inters and wets off the line. Let's get the starting order on the screen now if we can. So Amari Watson is on pole, followed by Maciej Heiler, who I think is on full wets, but we'll take a look at that later on in this lap. Tom Stevens is 3rd, and then it's Frank Hamming in 4th position. 5th will be Owen McGorky, then it's Ruben Machete, Jake Dennehan, our race 1 winner, and then Philip Koenig, who missed out as a result of that pit stop and might be kicking himself right now. And it's Moritz Kropp, Damien Kardash, Mike Quint, and Craig Patterson. The tyres on Maciej Heiler's car appear to have changed colour actually, but that sometimes happens. Adrian Faber, Menno Klont, Silver Joffert, and Arda Erkan are 13th through to 16th on the grid. 17th place will be Vincent Gutt, then Stavros Mazadas, both Valley Esports cars there, then Jörg de Vries and Justin van der Smissen, the top 20. And we've lost one because we've got Alexander Agosa, Mike Bell, and Alexander Valente. So, again, a bit of a shame to only have 23 out of the 30 cars possible on the grid right now. I really don't know why that would be the case, but we seem to have whole teams dropping out. It looks, according to that, as if Mike Bell is once again starting from the pits, and the only driver, and Damien Kardash is in the pits as well, so Kardash may have decided that, I mean, either he's missed a start or he's decided that the tyres he was going to start on aren't right. Stefan Mercedes is the only driver out there on full wets right now. And yes, Damien Kardash is in the pits. And now we'll be able to go to the pit exit. So here we go then. There will be 5 red lights that illuminate at the front of the field, and then when they go out, we will be underway for the second time of racing here today. There is Mike Bell making his way to the end of the pit lane. Kardash, I don't know if he's going to be starting because he's still in his box right now. Watch for the lights. 4 and 5. And it's go! Away we go on the start of the race, and a big slide as Watson had to put the power down off the racing line into turn 1 he goes, and he does get there first. So Watson leads, followed by Heiler, slightly wide now. Heiler on the inside. There's Menno Klont further back through the pack. Under the bridge. Looks to be relatively clean so far, but this is a pinch point on the lap. Yellow flags waving. Adrian Faber dropping to the back. Faber's still running, but something appears to have happened to him there, and he does still have his wings about him, but may have been for a spin. Watson, Heiler, Stevens is the order. Jake Dennehan, our race 1 winner, is still P7. Still plenty of time for things to change. Through to the end of the first lap of the race. And there you see Frank Hamming taking a look at Tom Stevens. He's going to the outside line. Sets him up through the hairpin. Still no DRS, of course. Probably won't be unless this race gets really dry towards the end. But the slipstream works nonetheless. And Hamming will attempt to get past Tom Stevens down the straight. Takes a look to the inside. You need to get your nose in front. Stevens stays third. Further back, here's Mike Quint. In a scrap just behind Moritz Kropp and Philip Koenig. That group has stayed in the same order so far. Quint hoping to continue the climb that he started in race 1. Bit of a twitch. Here's a replay. A replay of the start. Here's Adrian Faber. Now we know that Faber is last after the opening lap, so I think we're about to see how that happened and what happened to him. He was hit from behind by Silver Joffert. It was either Silver Joffert or Menno Klont anyway. One of the Multiforce cars gave him a nudge up the rear. And Joffert is now behind Klont, so I presume that it was Joffert. Apologies if it wasn't. Further back, there's McGorgy going defensive. Desperate to not let either of the TCS off cars through, because he knows that the TCS off cars have shown themselves to be the fastest drivers out on track right now. And it's the home race. Oh, and a look! And that was Tom Stevens going for a dive on Maciej Heiler. And they touched. This is for second. Heiler will get the run out of the chicane with a hairpin. Stevens ducking straight back into the slipstream. And you can see from onboard there is no rain right now. The dry line is forming. So I think the Inters are indeed the tyres to be on right now. Here's Dennehan. So the Multiforce cars have swapped. Yes, the rain has stopped. Stevens once again going for a move on Heiler. Into turn 1. And they touch once again. And Heiler once again keeps P2. Yes, as I was saying, the two TCS off cars have swapped places now. So Dennehan is ahead of Ruben Machete, and it's his turn to have a swipe at Owen McGorgy. Here's a replay. Let's see what this is of. This is Stavros Mizadis, the only driver who started on full wets, potentially regretting his decision. He's fighting there with is that Erda Erkan potentially down into the chicane, and spins and hits the wall and loses his front wing. Well, he probably would have had to pit anyway at some point because the track is getting drier and drier. But his hand's been rather forced, and McGorgy's dropping. McGorgy's had a spin. So McGorgy, who was running in 5th position in this race, is now down to 13th. I hope we can get a replay of that soon. But yes, okay, apparently it's lined up. That's good to know. Here is Tom Stevens. Now this time, can he get past Hyler? He's been a little desperate so far in this race. Obviously thinks that Watson's going to get away if he doesn't get past him. Here we go. Across the start-finish line once again. This is where he had his attempt last time. Oh, the door is shut. Rudely but firmly in his face. Menno Klunt on the back of Craig Patton as well. Into turn 2 they go, and here is that replay of what happened to Owen McGorgy. I presume he did it by himself, but he was running relatively close to some other drivers. Let's see, does he get a tap on the rear? Takes too much curb. Too much curb, and then potentially puts the power down as he's off the road. Rejoins safely. But he's down in 13th. Lap 4, Hyler still not that far behind Watson, as that's a little bit of lag there. That wasn't cars sliding dramatically. Mizadis is now out of the race, and so is Alessandro Valente. So 2 cars retiring from this race, and Damien Kardash still in the pits. I don't think he ever started this race. 20 cars remaining. And more yellows out there somewhere. Gerrit de Vries is out of the race. So 19 cars remain. Kardash could technically still start this race. It will give him the option to, but he'd be several laps down, so there's not really much point at this stage. Across the start-finish line go Hyler and Stevens. I think Stevens has got to be a little bit more careful. Hyler is not as slow as he thinks he is. He's not letting Watson get away that fast. Watson on the back now of Craig Patterson once again. Sorry, Klunt. And here is what happened to Gerrit de Vries. I think this is going to be a slightly buggy replay, judging by how the car's moving, so you'll have to bear with it. But yeah, went straight on and called it a day. So Gerrit de Vries becomes our 3rd or 4th retirement, depending on whether you count Damien Kardash or not. Another little yellow. The entire field separates by 17 seconds after the first 5 laps. Onto the straight once again. Stevens attempts to set up Hyler for the 5th time. He's had no luck at this so far, and the DRS flap is open, so we do now have DRS enabled in this race. I'd have thought it would still be a little too wet for that, but that means that overtaking is now going to become a whole lot easier. And Moritz Kropp and Philip Koenig are going side by side, and Kropp, is in the pit, so that's why I saw there was a change of order, and he will be going for slick tyres, I presume. So yes, goes for soft. So it looks as if the track is drier than it looks. A bunch of them are coming in. McGorgy is in. Honestly, no surprise there. His tyres would have been slightly damaged anyway from that spin. Van der Smisson's in, Faber's in, they've got nothing to lose. Yeah, game on. This is great stuff. McGorgy on mediums as well. Here's a replay of Ruben Machete as he turns into turns 1 and 2. Oh, and Philip Koenig's run off. So Philip Koenig there in the background. Went straight across the first couple of corners. Are this group going to pit soon, or is it still too early? it would help if they had spotters talking about what Crop, McGorgy, etc. are doing, and if it's working for them or not. But that's just made this race a heck of a lot more interesting. The DRS active, so Clont will have a chance at getting past Craig Patterson to the inside. He's on the damp patch though. You don't want to brake when you're still out there. And Clont does go through, so Clont goes to P9 now. And Silver Joffert comes into the pits, as does Ragosa, Erkan. I think Faber's is glitched there because he was in the pits a lap ago. Here's a replay. This is of Ruben Machedi now, who's up into 4th place. Going past... Sorry, no, Tom Stevens got past Maciej Heiler. So Heiler has run... Oh, and into the back of him! Hamming hits the back of Maciej Heiler, who's now down to 4th or 5th place. And yes, Machedi did get through, so Heiler drops from 2nd down to 5th. All started by a move from Tom Stevens. Thank you for catching that replay, Szymon, because I'd have been really confused if you hadn't. 7 laps of the race gone already. Now, can Stevens catch Amari Watson? He was faster in race 1, but not by that much. And the conditions are changing, so it may be different now. Onto the back straight. Still a massive chain of cars who will all be slightly preoccupied now. Their minds will be slightly preoccupied by thinking about, is the track dry enough? And into the pits comes one of the TCS Soft cars. Ruben Machedi comes into the pits. Come to think of it, why was Machedi ahead of Denahan in all of that? Denahan had swapped with him a little while ago. But anyway, obviously swapped back at some stage. Clont, Machedi, Patterson all in the pits. There's Moritz Krop. Ooh, very twitchy. Whoa, all sorts of out of control. Touches the wall. Remember, he's on slick tyres. Maybe struggling a little. I think the drivers coming out the pits now still have a little advantage over him. Krop has gone through, so he's behind Machedi. Then again, he was behind Machedi before the pit stages anyway. Here's Jake Denahan. Yellow's out there somewhere. Everyone down to P9, still on those inters now. I wonder if any of them are going to try not to pit and hope it rains again. I think it would be very risky, because these drivers further back have survived these first few laps on slicks, and it doesn't appear to be getting any closer to raining again. It will stay out. Maciej Heiler in. Jake Denahan in, so our race 1 winner is into the pits. Mike Quint in behind them. Vincent Gutt and Mike Bell are also out there on inters. Do they stay out or come in? Well, Gutt goes through, and so does Bell, so they're both still on track. Ooh, big twitch. Ruben Machedi. Good control, but it's obviously pretty treacherous out there, and he is sparking his way down to turn 1. Denahan has jumped Machedi, so it still seems that the inters are the fastest tyres to be on. And Heiler is now ahead of Machedi again as well. So Machedi loses 2 places, maybe by coming in a lap too early. Look at all that sparking. Very low running car Ruben Machedi is on. And here's his big slide. Little bit of a buggy replay. Doesn't really do it as much justice as it maybe deserves, but still a very good save there. Stevens catching up to Watson. He's within DRS range now. The lead scrap is on. And they decide to stay out. Now, the fact that Machedi dropped a couple of places shows that the inters were still the tyres to be on until very recently, but are they still? It could change any lap now. Might have already changed. Machedi has passed Heiler. Machedi has re-passed Heiler there. He's now back on on the tail of his teammate, and Heiler gets all sorts of out of shape. Great save. Machete's car is rubbing its way along the ground. Now that was Denahan that time. Here's Moritz Kropp on the tail of Omagorgi. These two championship contenders from rival teams. Jake Denahan really got himself into the championship fight with that race 1 win. We'll have to keep an eye on him as the season goes along, because at this stage, whoa, big slide, and wide goes Watson. Stevens takes a look. He's going to have the DRS down the straight. Watson will have the overspeed now, but there's going to be DRS and there's going to be slipstream. Frank Hamming is right there with them. To the outside goes Stevens. Stevens takes the lead. Tom Stevens takes the lead in this race. And Hamming's got to act quickly, because otherwise Stevens might well get away. Hamming on the back of Watson. The two sparking TCS offs now coming down towards the braking zone as Mike Bell pits. Watson and Hamming are teammates, remember, so if Watson feels that Hamming is quicker, there may well be a swap of position so that Hamming can go after Stevens. Moritz Kropp loses a place there. Moritz Kropp has lost a couple of places. No, he's lost 1 place there to Arda Erkan. But quite a lot of time, so I think Kropp may have had an incident or something. He's clearly been having a bit of a tough time out there on slicks. He's been all over the place when we've seen him. There he is again, look at that! Not enjoying it out there right now. He has come out ahead of Bell, but off the road. Bell's going to pass him. Faber's already gone through. And Mike Bell takes P15. Might have cut the corner a little in that overtake though. But anyway, P15 for the time being. Inters still look quicker. DRS open for Amari Watson. He's trying to come back at Tom Stevens. Has to back out of it. Stevens in the pits. Stevens pits. Watson and Hamming will lead the race. It's a HGP 1-2. And will it stay that way? Or is the track getting too dry to justify staying out? Now is probably about the time, I'd say, that the slicks are about to come into their own. It's that awkward transition stage where Inters and slicks are both still viable. Big slide from Machete once again. Someone big is going to drop it soon. Stevens exits ahead of Machete. That's important in that fight there, and quite a way ahead as well. He was ahead of him before the pit stages, but if he had been passed by Machete, it would have shown that the slick tyres were coming into their own. And it may still be that the Inters are the tyres to be on. But will it be that way for the whole race, or will the HGP drivers start to really struggle? Philip Koenig's still out there in 3rd place as well. Machete's fastest lap, did you say? Great stuff. Okay, so Machete on the slick, setting fastest laps. And they're going to swap. So the leaders swap. Frank Hamming takes the lead away from Amari Watson and pits. So Frank Hamming comes in. Watson will once again lead the race. The yellows out there are a constant reminder. Oh, I think something may have happened to Heiler there, because Heiler lost the place to Quint right as the yellows came out. So I think Heiler may have had a little off or something as he resumes. Yes, he's lost a lot of time to Quint, so I think he's had a little spin or something. Half spin coming up the hairpin. Hamming exits his pit box. Watson leads by 3.5 seconds over Koenig. Hamming's going to be side by side with Stevens, who takes him. So Stevens does just about take Hamming. And Machete has once again given way to Denahan, so Denahan is P5. Here's a replay. And this is Maciej Heiler into the hairpin. And this is where he's going to lose it. Yeah, little half spin. Full spin, actually, as he resumes onto the infield. That's going to cost him a lot of time. And, of course, did cost him that place. Back to Machete. And Crop's in the pits again. Now, I did see another yellow. I think Crop may have lost his wing out there somewhere and has come back into the pits. And that is his chance of a strong result today gone. It's not been a great day by Moritz Crop standards. Silver Joffert now on the back of Owen McGorgy. On soft tyres compared to McGorgy's mediums. I did think it was interesting that McGorgy went for mediums. Maybe he was a bit concerned that... or hards, I should say. Maybe he was a bit concerned that softs weren't going to last the full race. Mike Bell's now past Vincent Gutt. He's having a good race. And they've changed again, the other way around. There you see the tyres. A fascinating situation where it's Inters 1-2, but the track is drying. Owen McGorgy, the only driver out there on hard tyres. Which can't feel great in low grip conditions, actually. You want to have a tyre that really does grip the road like the soft. Silver Joffert trying to line him up. More yellows. Keep an eye on the order to see if anyone drops. I think they're okay. It may just be Crop. Oh, Patterson is out of the race. So, actually, I'm not sure I saw Van der Smissen retire a couple of laps ago, but he is out, and now Craig Patterson is also out of the race, and we're about to see how that happened. Down into turn 1, maybe. Barking his under tray. And then turn 2. And spins it into the wall. So that's what happened to Craig Patterson. 17 cars remaining in this race, 16 of those on the lead lap. Watson, Koenig, Stevens, Hamming, Machete, Denahan, Quint, McGorgy, Heiler and Joffa at the top 10 at this stage. Might be about to change, just a little touch there, Heiler with Joffa. Twitchy out of turn 2. Here's a replay. This is McGorgy now, getting past Maciej Heiler. That was on the straight, so he has got past him. And Joffert attempted to follow him through, and that's what set up that whole little schmozzle at turn 1. And there are the TCS off drivers. Wherever they finish in this race, they are surely going to come away from today very happy due to their race 1 victory. They would have at least hoped for a podium in race 2, but they might still get it. Still plenty of time to go, and with Watson and Koenig staying out on those inters, who knows what might happen. They've swapped quite a few times here, actually. Machete, yeah, they're trying to leapfrog, get the overspeed on the straight, and then use that to basically, it's a karting technique where you pull yourself up to the back of the car in front by using your teammate to make you faster. Manu Clont and Silver Joffert doing the same thing right there. But yeah, Denahan and Machete have swapped 4 or 5 times in this race so far. I presume they'll want Denahan to finish ahead out of the two of them because he is the driver who is challenging for the championship. And Machete is standing in today for Darius Andre. That's another team where they're usually very evenly matched. Denahan and Andre. And now Denahan and Machete are proving to be also very evenly matched. Also shows that the team has put a lot of work into the car and making the car work out. Look at Maciej Heiler, he's got past Owen McGorgy again. McGorgy slipstreamed his way past him on the straight last time around. And we'll be hoping to do the same thing again, but they have swapped for the time being. And we're about to see how. I think McGorgy might be about to make a little mistake or something. Nope, Heiler just got a much better run out of that. Whoa, and a big slide in the background from one of the Multisports cars. Yeah, Heiler got a much better run out there. Very nearly crowded McGorgy into the wall. That's how I was taken out in Formula Sprint 2 the other day. Someone crowded me into that exact wall there. The car was absolutely demolished and I was not very happy about it, but oh well. So the gap between Stevens and Koenig is 4 seconds. That's the most important one on this track right now, because that could end up being the fight for the lead. Stevens' last few laps have been about 2 seconds faster than Koenig, meaning that at this rate, he will catch him, but can he pass him? With the back straight that long, probably, actually. In fact, is that Moritz Kropp? So I think Kropp here might be about to come into play strategically, as Bell, unfortunately, has come into the pits again, so loses his chance of, or maybe loses his chance of a point finish, still a bit of time to go. But Kropp may be about to strategically put himself in front of Stevens' car here to give him the slipstream and play leapfrog just as the TCS off guys are doing. Hasn't really been working for the TCS off guys as much as they would have liked, but if the Nocturne guys can make it work better, then they might be able to get up to the back of Watson and Koenig even quicker. This is fascinating. I wonder if Kropp, Faber there has passed Gut there for P13. But yeah, I wonder if Kropp is going to attempt to pass Koenig and Watson first, and then, as Klunt goes off the road, and then hold them up a little. It would be very bold. Erkan not able to take advantage of Klunt's mistake. Here's Maciej Heiler, still in battle with Owen McGorgy, who appears to have slipstreamed his way straight back past. Oh, big slide, touches the wall. Possibly some suspension damage there. And through on the outside goes Silver Joffert. That was a big twitch from Maciej Heiler. He'll almost be glad the wall was there, actually, because otherwise he would have spun right the way round. But he'll be hoping that his car doesn't have any steering damage or anything. And Denahan has swapped with Machete again, I think. Something changed there anyway. Oh, look at Stevens. Look at that. That was brave. Wow. Erkan's now got past Klunt for 11th. Yeah, that was very brave. Trying to force Koenig off the line in turn 2. He has now caught right up to the back of Philip Koenig's car, and look at that. So much more traction. He'll get the DRS there as well. And that was an easy move in the end from Tom Stevens at a part of the track where moves shouldn't be that easy. He's got 2 seconds now to gain to Amari Watson for the lead of this race. And this is the stage where Koenig might start to drop like a stone, because now he's been passed and stands no chance of winning the race. The other cars are going to come past him like a steam train. No DRS there for Frank Hamming. I thought he'd have had it there, but anyway. Down into the chicane they go. Towards the start-finish line. This is for third now, Hamming on the back of Philip Koenig. Stevens' gap to Watson is 1 second. Oh, and losing it! Philip Koenig's tyres have gone off to the extent where he has completely lost the car. He is backwards in the barriers and will not only have damage, but that will be his chance of a podium gone. We're going to see a replay of it almost instantly, as Philip Koenig was defending. Here we are from an aerial shot. The helicopter will pick it up well. There wasn't any contact, but oh, there might have been. There was. Oh, sorry, I thought he'd lost it by himself, but there was a touch between Philip Koenig and Frank Hamming. One that the stewards may want to have a look at after this one. Stevens is right up with Watson. Is this his chance? Surely it is. Out of the hairpin, gets the traction down. He was behind across the DRS line, so he will get DRS. I feel that this will be easy for Tom Stevens. DRS opens. Can he slot in ahead? And yes, he does. So Tom Stevens takes the lead of the race in the late stages. Machete has once again passed Denahan. But yes, Tom Stevens leads, followed by Watson and then Hamming. And Hamming will be approaching Watson as well. And this is the point where the two TCS off cars come into play, because they will be also approaching like a steam train. Hyler and Patterson still doing battle. McGorgy, sorry, not Patterson. Hyler runs wide, hit the curb way too much. And McGorgy goes through to 8th. This is quite an important day for the championship, with all of the championship contenders so spread out and having such different race 1s and race 2s. But I can't keep you updated on the live championship order, I'm afraid, as the two HGPs are about to swap. So Hamming does go through on Amari Watson. Yellow flags somewhere. And Watson will now be so vulnerable to those TCS off cars. And I think something's happened to Vincent Gutt, because the yellow there came out when Gutt lost a position. And Quint, so something's happened to Quint there, who was 8th, and he's still dropping. Mike Quint in real trouble, and he's out of the race. Mike Quint has DNF'd from 8th place in this race. Some important points lost for the driver who'd been gaining places all the way through both race 1 and race 2. And here's how it happened. It appears that he was still on inters, but I don't think he was he? Unless I've been missing something, but anyway. Way too much curb. That'll be white. Kaboom. Oh my goodness. So nearly took out McGorgy and Hyler. Great avoidance from everyone behind there. Very good avoidance. Oh! Oh, that wasn't the whole story. He was cleaned up by Mike Bell. And that was a big shame, because that wasn't any fault of Mike Bell's there. You see the debris to the side of the circuit, and already Ruben Machete is up into 3rd position. He's passed Amari Watson. For so long in this race, it looked as if Watson could hold on, but he just did not have the grip at the end. Watson drops to 4th. Dennehan will come through soon. Although Watson still has a DRS here, so Dennehan will still have to fight for it. We're on the penultimate lap of the race. Now the final lap. Frank Hamming sets the fastest lap of the race, as he's still trying to reel in Tom Stevens. And Dennehan goes for it. Nope, bails out of it. Good driving. Erkan and Hyler swapping places further back as well. Here's a replay of Ruben Machete about to take 3rd position in this race, away from Amari Watson. Now here's the interesting thing. If Dennehan is not able to get past Watson, then the TCS off cars won't have time to swap, and Machete will be allowed to finish 3rd, surely. Here is Jake Dennehan going through on the exit. And Erkan's lost a couple of places again, actually, so something really dramatic's happening there for 8th, 9th and 10th. Oh, they touch! That was Dennehan touching with Watson. He'll have to give that back. He'll have to do it down the straight. I think Machete is going to be allowed to finish 3rd in this race. Because I don't think they're going to be able to swap. I don't think it'll be safe enough. Dennehan, oh, loses it. He's in the wall. Dennehan, our race 1 winner, has crashed on the final lap of this race. And that will mean that Tom Stevens wins this race as he's about to cross the line. So let's switch to him. There is Tom Stevens, winning by just under a second from Hamming, who was charging hard at the end. There is Stevens. There is Hamming. Machete will be 3rd. There he is, crosses the line, weaves from side to side. Watson 4th, and Dennehan will hold on to 5th, despite not having a front or rear wing. Here's Philip Koenig, he will be 6th. Hyder and Erkan having a fight on the last lap. Can we take a look at that, actually? Yeah, here we are. So, coming out the final corner, look at these three. Mike Bell there being lapped. So, Clont 8th. Hyler 9th, and Erkan's nowhere to be seen, so he must have had a little incident or a spin or something on that last lap. Silver Joff at P11, then also in the points were Ragosa, Gutt, Kropp, and Bell. Bell still scoring points despite his incident. And then Faber was the only driver who finished and did not score. That's got to hurt. Several retirements in this race. Way more than in race 1. and Szymon is trying to get a replay of what happened to Erkan on that last lap, because he and a bunch of others, yeah, there he goes, cutting across the chicane and dropping back. But yeah, he and a bunch of others were scrapping hard for positions towards the end and swapping places all the time. But there you go. So Tom Stevens has won the second race of the day, and probably will take the championship lead from McGorgy with how far down McGorgy finished in that second race there. But that's not official, and I don't know the championship order for real. But there you go. There is your top 10 order. Stevens, Hamming, Machete, Watson, Denahan, Koenig, McGorgy, Klont, Heiler, and Erkan. And I am indeed going to give the driver of the day to Reuven Machete. That's my driver of the day vote anyway, for his double podium finish and for almost upclassing Jake Denahan in that second race there. Of course, we didn't really see their full potential because they were racing quite strategically. But yes, Reuven Machete, great drive today and a double podium when he was just supposed to be standing in for Darius Andre. And of course, this is a track that he goes so well at, having won both races in Formula Sprint 2 the other day. Silver Joffert was P11, followed by Alexander Ragosa, Vincent Gert, Moritz Kropp, Adrian Faber, and Mike Bell. They're supposed to be the other way around, actually. Bell finished out of Faber, didn't he? Anyway, then it was some DNFs, Quint, Patterson, Van der Smissen, De Vries, Valente, Mercedes, and Kardash. I am now going to bring in Reuven Machete to interview him. As you see the calendar on your screen there, we're going to the British Grand Prix next in 2 weeks' time. But Reuven, what a day for you. After you won both races in Formula Sprint 2, you have now got both podiums in Formula Sprint 1. This has got to be the track of your dreams.
Well, I don't expected that on Canada, to be honest with you. I expected that on Spa, because on Spa I'm usually quite good, because you are not so much tire wear and the stuff. But today was great again. Also, greetings from Steven Lexo. He was today my race engineer. He did a fantastic job in the strategy. Thank you very much, mate. And whereas the races, I did some mistakes, but I think I scored the maximum points again. For me, what was possible, P2 and P3, it's amazing.
Absolutely. And how does it feel to have brought TCS off a 1-2 at their home Grand Prix?
It feels amazing. I don't expect it to finish second, so a 1-2 for them in their home race, it's great. So I'm very happy for them. So yeah, I'm just happy.
Those conditions were so changeable too. How did you predict those in both races?
So I knew the information that in the first race there will be rain, and so we start on the full wet with maximum fuel to do our zero stop, and then someone write me on Discord that the rain will stop in 55 minutes, and then I knew in race 2 it will be dry or it will be an interstart with and then swap to the dry tires.
Were you nervous about swapping to the dries? Did you think it might have been viable to stay out in inters the whole way?
No. For me, I had good tire wear on the inter. I had only 1% on the rear, which was quite good. So if it stay in this condition, so like 8% rain, I think I could have got a really good chance. But also, I think, no, I wouldn't have done that with the dry line. That would be so much risk.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, you have done a fantastic job here today, and of course all week with your wins in Formula Sprint 2. Thank you very much for talking to us, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So that was Reuven Machete, podium in both races today. And unfortunately, I don't see anyone else in the interview room just yet. I'm a little surprised by that, but whatever the case, I'll give it a few more minutes, see if anyone wants to drop in. In the meantime, make sure that you absolutely do tune in to the next round of this championship. It's going to be in 2 weeks at Silverstone, and Silverstone is always a fantastic place for GPVWC racing, even better than Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, although I am a little biased in that one. But yeah, we also have Formula Sprint. Sorry, we have Super Lights and Super League next week. Super Lights on the Tuesday, then Super League on the Thursday, both starting at 7:30 British time. Convert that to your own time zones. And then, of course, the next Formula Sprint 2 race will also be at Silverstone. It still doesn't appear that anyone is going to come into the interview room, so I am going to start wrapping this one up. Thank you very much to Szymon Frelik for the cameras and the stream that you saw today. Apologies again for missing the start of race 1 and the majority of qualifying. I was having all sorts of technical issues today, and I have no idea why that was happening, but whatever the case, we got it sorted eventually, and we got a broadcast. Thank you to everyone who chatted along in the YouTube chat, and thank you, of course, to the drivers for giving us a fantastic day of racing. Congratulations to the winners, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Goodbye.